Hey everybody, welcome back to the page. My name's Anthony and this is Dogwood Hill Homestead, where we raise quail, chickens, and goats in a pretty big vegetable garden. And today we're going to be talking about quail. So today I want to talk about 5 mistakes that we have made, and I think a lot of people are in this boat when they get started raising quail. They've made some of these same mistakes. Maybe you've made some mistakes we didn't mention. Put that in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. But let's get into our biggest mistakes when it comes to raising quail. So mistake number 1, we learned this fairly early on before we really understood, was mixing in too many males with our females. Now, it's recommended that you have about 1 male to every 4 or 5 females. Well, when we first started, we just kind of had them all together in a big cage, and we had males and females mixed together, and there was a lot of rivalry. There was a lot of fighting among the males over who was going to get mating rights, so to speak. So we had a lot of trouble with that. We actually had some pretty serious injuries. We had one bird that had the skin torn off the top of their head, and boy, they can gouge each other's eyes out. They can do some damage. So that's one of the biggest mistakes, is mixing in multiple males. Now, there are a lot of people that try to breed out aggression, and some people do that successfully. Now, we have found that the chicks that we hatched, that we purchased from Giedro's Family Farm, we've noticed they're not as aggressive as some of the other ones that we've had there. This group here, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 8 in this group right here. Male and female. They're probably about 4 to 5 weeks old, and we've not noticed any problems with aggression. But there are but now our tuxedo quail, our first quail, we had some problems with aggression. So it's always best as they mature to go ahead and separate them out. Now, over here we have in this bay we have 4 females and 1 male, and so that seems to be working pretty good for us at about a 1 to 4, 1 to 5 ratio. Mistake number 2, and this was a big mistake for us. It cost us a lot of animals, a lot of money, was not providing enough ventilation. Quail need, in the summertime when it's hot, quail need a lot of ventilation. They need fresh air circulating in. We thought we were in good shape here in my workshop, because this workshop is insulated and there is a window air conditioner in the window, and we thought that would provide plenty of ventilation. But when you have temperatures that are exceeding 95 plus, heat indexes in the hundreds, the heat was building up in the room, and there's not enough ventilation in this building to circulate the air well enough. So we lost some birds to that. We learned our lesson the hard way. You really need to have something with good ventilation. Now, we've corrected some of the things that we did. We've added extra fans, and we've got in the works, we're going to be building another building for our quail in the future that's going to have plenty of ventilation. Probably will be building that sometime either this fall or early spring. We probably will keep ours for the winter inside here. But we definitely want to do something before next summer rolls around. So that was a big mistake for us, is not providing enough ventilation. You want to make sure that air is allowed. You want to make sure that you have a way for you want to make sure you have a way for the hot air to escape. And that was our big problem. The hot air was not escaping fast enough, and it was creeping down into the building, and the air conditioner was just not enough to get rid of that hot air, and it just began to build up, and we lost a lot of birds, and it was a pretty big mistake, pretty painful mistake, one that we hope that we'll never make again. That was a painful one. That was one that was not a good day for us. That was pretty rough, but we made the changes that we need. We added ventilation, and we got plans in the future how we're going to do even better with that. But that's a big mistake, not providing enough ventilation. All right, so the third mistake that we made early on was giving the quail too much room. Now, coming from the world of chickens, we just thought that more is better. and didn't really understand that quail are different. And that's what you need to, if you understand one thing, understand that not everything that works for chickens works for quail. So Cotternix quail, even though they're a different breed from the wild bob white quail in the area, they still have that same instinct of flying up, and so you really need to protect them. Either you need to go with a low ceiling cage, or you need to have something that is at least probably 6 to 8 feet that gives them room to fly up without bonking themselves in the head. All right, so mistake number 4 when we went to quail was the standard feeders. When we first brought our quail home, we had adult birds or juvenile birds that were about 3 to 4 weeks old, so they were almost full grown. But we thought, you know, something like this would be perfect to feed them. We could just put this in the cage and they can eat from this, and we'll just fill it up every day or every other day. Well, there's a problem with that. Quail are very messy eaters. They have an instinct to rake food out, and so they'll stick their little beaks in here and they'll turn their head to the side, and when they do, they will rake feed out. Now, you know, if this was on the ground, that wouldn't be a problem. They could just rake feed out and peck it. But because these cages are, they have wire floors for the droppings to pass through, when they rake this out, it goes straight down into the collection below, and so it's wasted. And so we noticed when we started using these feeders, we would fill them up, and then we would come in that afternoon and they would be empty, and the trays, the waste trays, would be full of feed. Some days there would be a pound of feed that had just been raked out and wasted. The birds never ate it. It just went straight into the manure trays below. So that was a pretty big mistake. Using a standard chicken style or chick style feeder just does not work with quail. And what we ended up going to at first with our old cage system, the first thing we did, we looked online, and there's lots of information online about building quail feeders. We just kind of built our own with an ice cream bucket and drilled some 1-inch holes, or I think maybe these might be 1 1/4 inch holes, about 2 inches above the bottom, and that allows them to stick their head in and be able to eat, and they're not able to rake it out. Now, we still would lose a little bit of feed through these, and I did have somebody to comment, and I may try this in the future, that said if you will take pieces of PVC and glue it to the inside of that, where there's that extra guard there, that they will not be able to rake it out at all. But these really cut down on the amount of feed wasted. And like I said, this is something that you can make from what you already have. There's lots of ideas. We've made them from ice cream buckets. We've made them from plastic shoe boxes. So anything like this, any kind of container that you can use like this to make a good quail feeder. Now, when we went to our new system, when we went to our new cage system, it came complete with feeders, and these are absolutely great feeders. There's absolutely very little to no waste, and as you see, this is just a J-style feeder that has a big hopper in the back, and feed is loaded into the hopper, and it comes out, and there's actually baffles. I don't know how well you can see that. There's actually baffles there that stop a lot of the feed from coming in, but there's just enough that gets into that little valley right there that they can eat, and the baffles keep them from raking it out to the side. These work terrific. Very little waste. Very little waste with these style feeders. I highly recommend. These are the Thieving Otter feeders. Very good feeders, by the way. I've been pleased with them. But you're going to need to use something besides just a regular chick style or chicken style feeder, because they will waste more food than they eat. And so the biggest mistake, so the final of the fifth mistake, the biggest mistake, the most expensive, I won't say the biggest mistake, ventilation was probably the biggest mistake, but we'll say the most expensive mistake was that, spending too much too soon. So we spent quite a bit of money on a nice cage system that came fully loaded with drinkers and feeders and everything, and roll-out cages, and we spent quite a bit of money on that. And you know, that's kind of something that I kind of regret. Because when we first started, we built our cage. This is the first cage that we built, and this cage cost, I mean, this is less than $100. So this cost less than $100 to build this cage. I built it out of a lot of things that I had on hand, 2x4s that I had on hand that are ripped down. And this is very inexpensive, very good system. We still use this. We use this with our young birds, and we use it as a brooder. But this costs very little. It was a great start for us. It was a great way for us to get started, to kind of see if we liked quail. And in a way, I kind of wish I would have stuck with the system. Maybe wish I would have just built another one of these instead of spending the money on buying our wire cage. The truth is, quail don't need a lot. There's not a lot of fancy equipment that quail need. I mean, if you just provide them with protection from predators, with a cage that is has a low enough ceiling that they're not going to hurt themselves, give them food and water. I mean, they're going to thrive. They don't need the fancy cages, the best of the best, the expensive, state of the art. Really, what that is really about is convenience, because this cage is just more convenient, because it did come with everything. It came with a watering system, a feeding system. It came with roll-out cages, and pretty much that is the reason we went with this, because we like the rollout. Truth be told, this inexpensive cage that we built here also has an automatic water. We can also add, if we had wanted to, we could have added J-style feeders to this cage as well. This cage can do everything that cage can do. This cage is a little more convenient because it's one package ready to go out of the box, whereas this, you're going to have to build it yourself, and you're going to have to go in there every day to collect the eggs. Pretty much the cage behind me does nothing additional that the other cage doesn't do, except for making it convenient to collect the eggs every day. And if you really think about it, the amount of time that we spend collecting eggs, you're talking a few seconds a day, a minute a day. So it's really not that big of a deal. And kind of, to be honest, I wish I would have just stayed with my home built cage system. Just maybe built another one of those instead of going and spending the money on buying this. I'm pretty happy with this cage. There are some things about this cage that I'm not happy about, but I'm fairly happy. The longer I have it, the more that I like it. I'm glad that I have it now. But if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't spend that kind of money on it. I would have waited a little bit longer and just kind of continued to use what I had. So if you're just getting started in quail, don't think that you have to spend a lot of money. You can do a lot of things yourself. So start small, grow small, learn from my mistakes. So there you have it. Those are our 5 biggest mistakes that we've made while raising quail. And even though we've made some pretty big mistakes and some pretty costly mistakes raising quail, we still really love raising quail. It's just something about raising quail that just brings us joy. My wife and I both enjoy raising quail. We enjoy the eggs. We enjoy the meat. And it's just a great animal to have on your homestead. Guys, I hope that this video has helped you out. I hope you've learned from some of our mistakes and you've kind of laughed with us and cried with us, and maybe you don't have to make some of the same mistakes that we have. Maybe you have made those mistakes, or maybe you've made some other mistakes. Put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.